Good morning. Thank you, Joseph, for that introduction. And let me start by saying what a tremendous honor it is to be here speaking right after Minister Ghani, who has been such an important part of the US-UK alliance in working on the issues that you all are concerned with. It's especially good for me to be back here in London, in the UK, which is one of the United States' closest and strongest partners internationally, not just on energy security and the energy diplomacy that I'm responsible for, but also our shared vision of the challenges that lie ahead in the energy transition. Following the latest wave of Russian attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure, I also want to acknowledge our alliance with the United Kingdom in support of Ukraine and thwarting Russia's efforts to use energy as a tool of coercion. As both previous speakers have pointed out, this event, coming just days ahead of COP28 in Dubai, could not be more timely. And in this context, I want to focus my remarks this morning on how our governments are working together to stimulate the more rapid investment in critical minerals and metals that we'll need for the clean energy transition. We cannot have done as much as we already have to advance this effort without the support and the leadership of the United Kingdom. Under the guidance of Minister Ghani, the UK was one of the founding members of our Mineral Security Partnership, which now includes 14 economies and more than half of global GDP. From day one, London has played a leading role in this partnership, including through the development of our ESG principles, as well as potentially hosting one of the MSP's early projects. The UK's shared commitment to our goal of involving mineral-producing countries in MSP opportunities and ensuring that projects meet the highest international standards has helped us substantially to advance the initiative. I also want to thank Minister Ghani once again for hosting the third MSP ministerial meeting this fall, which showcased how far we've come in just a year or so since the MSP first came together. That event was the occasion for my boss, State Department Under Secretary Jose Fernandez, also to be here in London, where I know he met with many of you. As everyone in this room knows all too well, most of the world is playing catch-up on the extraction, processing, and recycling of the minerals and metals that underpin clean energy technologies. Strong bilateral and multilateral partnerships, as well as private sector investment, will be essential to meet our energy transition goals. The good news, as we head into COP28 next week, is that the energy transition is happening faster than expected. As Fatih Birol pointed out in an address last August, the clean energy transition has become turbocharged. The bad news is that we still have notable choke points in the supply chains that are crucial to rapid decarbonization. Let me put a couple of numbers out there. 64, 68, 72, and 79. Those are the IEA estimated percentages of clean technology supply chains in 2030 for wind turbines, batteries, refined cobalt, and solar PV, all coming from one country. Another source, Benchmark, puts current natural graphite and synthetic graphite supply chains at 75 and 74% dominated by one country. Altogether, 80% of our clean energy supply chains run through the People's Republic of China, creating vulnerability to price shocks and other disruptions that could hamper our progress towards the global energy transition. But the Biden administration believes we can change these numbers, and I'm willing to guess that all of you are here because you believe so too. Let me make one thing abundantly clear. The United States is not advocating for decoupling our economies from the PRC. We are emphasizing what we learned from the Russia example in Europe. You cannot overly rely on any one country as an energy supplier. We're calling for de-risking, and for making sure that we don't replace overdependency on one country with overdependency on another. In a recent address at Georgetown University, President Biden's National Security Advisor, Jake Sullivan, described it succinctly. The United States is taking a small garden, high fence approach to critical technology. We must protect our strategic assets while not marginalizing important economic partners. In the critical minerals context, this means diversifying our supply chains by making the best possible offer to mineral-producing countries and working within high environmental, social, and governance standards to incentivize new investment around the world. And that brings me back to the Mineral Security Partnership. One of the MSP's main tenets is also what brings us here today. It's not possible for the United States to meet our climate goals without the private sector. And that's why the State Department, a few weeks ago, announced a public-private partnership with the nonpartisan energy security organization SAFE to form the Minerals Investment Network for Vital Energy Security and Transition, or MINVEST. MINVEST builds on a strong record of collaboration between the State Department and SAFE, as exemplified by our successful series of workshops in the DRC and Zambia to assist those countries in developing their EV battery supply chains and manufacturing sectors. The MINVEST initiative is all about engaging private sectors globally to support energy supply chain diversification. MINVEST will directly support the United States' critical mineral strategic goals, including by advancing the Mineral Security Partnership and formalizing our engagement with the private sector. By doing so, we're aiming to send a strong signal to the market that there is a robust demand for critical minerals that adhere to high ESGs to support the clean energy transition. In the months ahead, we will hold regular roundtables with the private sector in producing countries, connect private investors with mining companies, facilitate larger mining companies partnering with junior miners, and hold events convening the private sector and Mineral Security Partnership partners to highlight investment opportunities. We look forward to engaging with all of you on this effort. And we look forward to identifying complementary lines of effort with all of our European and Asian partners. In just the last month, my bureau at the State Department has held energy and climate dialogues with Indonesia, Japan, Canada, Norway, and Australia, in which critical minerals and their respective supply chains were central topics, and we intend to expand these dialogues in the months ahead. Of course, another important pillar of our energy diplomacy at COP and over the past year is the Inflation Reduction Act. At home, the IRA has led to over $110 billion in new investment and the creation of over 170,000 new clean energy jobs. According to some estimates, over the next decade, it could lead to as many as 1.5 million new jobs. And I want to make clear that these benefits are not just limited to the United States. We're an open economy, and the huge infusion of credits and tax breaks from the Inflation Reduction Act has been met with intense interest by our allies. In coming years, as a result of this legislation, we can expect to see a massively accelerated deployment of new clean energy technologies and a resulting decline in the cost to consumers. Key to our continued success, however, is something I've already touched on. We will not meet our Inflation Reduction Act goals without input and engagement from private sector partners. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why I'm here in London. The organizations represented in this room are critical to the success of our energy transition. Over the next 2 days, I hope to speak with as many of you as possible about the work you're doing now, how you're doing it, and how we can most effectively advance our shared goals. So thank you for the invitation, and I very much look forward to the discussions.